Hey guys, Robert here. How y'all doing? I'm doing a little impromptu live stream here on Sunday night. What date is it? The 5th of May. Cinco de Mayo, right? Cinco de Mayo. I like mayo, especially on burgers. So we'll see if any people show up here. We're doing a Q&A today. I want to see if you guys have any questions. I can do some show and tell, perhaps. So I'm playing my Suhr Classic here, which is probably my favorite guitar. It's a really sweet instrument. I love it. I'm playing through my Axe-Fx number 2. The newest Axe-Fx is version 3. I have the 2XL. I think it's called 2XL Plus or something. Hey guys, good to see some people show up. So if you got any questions for me, go ahead. And if you look in the YouTube description here below the video, you'll see that I have put up 15% off my Triads bundle. If you want to learn about Triads and use them over tunes, that course I have available is really good for that. One of the things that I find a lot of students have trouble with is to find the chord tones, being able to navigate the fretboard as the chords change when you play a song. Because it's not always, usually not enough to just play the scale. You need to know where these sweet notes are. So if you're interested, take advantage of that coupon I have. Discount code 15% off. We got a few people watching. That's great. Thanks, guys. Well, to start off, I want to show you one simple little thing that I think is really useful for those of you who like to play the blues. Who doesn't, right? I just want to show you one simple little thing, and it's about taking the blues scale. I think a lot of us know this box 1 of the minor pentatonic, right? That's probably the first thing we learn when we start playing lead guitar. Right? So if you add one note to make it the blues scale, you get the flat 5. That note. Now we have 6 notes. So I'm playing in E. We can imagine that there's an E7 chord here. So the blue note is that flat 5. B flat. So I want to add one note, make it 7. So this is like a made-up scale. What I'm going to do is to add the major third into it. Then it sounds like this. What happens is we get the chromatic move from the minor third, which is G, all the way up to B. You know, it's really sweet sounding because you get that major third that fits so well over the chord, but you also get the minor third, so you can mix those two together. And bend into it like that. That's cool. So what I want to show you, once you got that under your fingers, You can do the same thing for what would be the 5 chord when you play blues, A7. Of course, you can take the same shape and move it here and play. But you can also play it here. And this is the important thing, that you practice finding the same type of idea in one area of the neck instead of having the hand move back and forth so much. That's the line I'm going for. I'm playing backwards, so I'm playing the root note, minor 7th, 5, flat 5, 4th, minor 3rd, and major 3rd. And then I finish on the root note again. You can do a lot with that. So when you go to the 4 chord, as I said, A7, you have it right there. So E, A, E. And what about the 5 chord? B7. An A. An E. Cool? It's really useful. So the B one, let me show one more time. I took that A shape for that scale. And I play exactly the same fingering. I just move it up 2 frets. Voila. Little trick for you. All right, let's see if you got any questions. Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm glad you like my sound, my Axe-Fx by Fractal Audio. It's awesome. Okay. Hi, Roman. Hi, Robert. Can you teach how to play What Kid Wants, played by Jeff Beck? You know, I don't know that tune. I haven't heard it. Or maybe I have heard it, but I've forgotten. So I don't really know that song, unfortunately. Hey, Anne from Australia. Hello from Russia. What's better for blues, single or humbucker? That's a good question. I know it kind of depends on who you ask, but they have their own pluses and minuses, I guess. One of the drawbacks with single coils is that when you play with a lot of distortion, you get that 60 cycle hum, you know, that noisy thing that comes from the design of the single coil. But you can of course use noise suppressors, and you can use noiseless pickups, which I have in my other guitar, Sex coils. They're really good. But I like single coils because they have, I don't know, they have a certain charm to it. They have a little bit more dynamic feel when you play, I think. And then for humbuckers, you get a little bit more compressed sound, and you don't get as much hum either. So it's really just a preference. I play both. Sometimes when you play a humbucker, you roll down the volume knob a little bit. You don't have so much gain. You can get a really cool blues sound. For funky stuff, usually single coils work better, I think. Yeah, so it's really just a preference. Thank you, Todd. Glad you like my lessons. Caged, caged is that's a topic that I get asked about quite frequently. I haven't really ever used caged much. It's just, I just learned a different way. But there's nothing wrong with that. I think the most important thing to realize is that this is the instrument that we play. This is our tool. This is what we make music with. And that means we have to know where the notes are on the fretboard. And caged is one of several ways you can map out where notes are. So if that works for you, that's great. I probably use caged and I don't even know it, if that makes sense. But I mean, the idea is that you have the shapes of chords, right? You have E. And you can play it. You have the chord tones right there, right? And then when you have a different shape, let's see, we can do A. It's called the A shape. So when I play E, that would be this. That bar chord. And you can take advantage of that when you're playing. And so on. So it's just a way of mapping out where notes are, so that you can quickly find the notes that you're looking for. I put out a lesson this week that I hope you have seen, where I talk about how to find octave patterns. And that's also really important, because that's just one note at a time, but you practice finding it all over the fretboard. And it's a crucial thing to know that, because that means that, let's say you know a few of these the chords that you're working on, maybe triads. Let's do triads. We have E. We have it here too. And we have it here. And we have it here. And so on. So if you know the note you're looking for is E, and you want to find a triad quickly, well, the way I do it is I look for E. In this case, I'm on the G string. I'm looking for G, the note E, I mean, on the G string. And once I find it, and that's because I practiced the way I showed in that lesson, I can find these notes due to the octave patterns. And so on. So I know E is here, and then I can quickly find the triad because I know the triad shape. Right? E is now on the B string. I also know the triad shape here. Or I can go lower. And so on. E on the A string. E on the D string. E on the low E string. And so on. So it's really important to be able to find the note that you're looking for. And then if you know the chord shape after that, well, then you have something you can really play. All right? I hope that makes sense. So caged, hard to say sometimes, caged is fine. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's not the only way to find where notes are on the fretboard. Ideally, you should learn all of them. All of the methods there are to find the notes on the fretboard. But I think caged is good in many ways because it makes you think about chords more, and that's something that guitar players often don't do enough. We're too involved in scales a lot of the times as guitar players. So it's important to be able to find chords. In fact, I recommend that you spend less time on scales and more time on chords. I mean, that depends on who you are, of course, and I don't know all of you, of course, but in general, that is an issue, that people can play a lot of pentatonic stuff. They can play the pentatonic stuff, but then when it comes to jamming, or let's make up something, let's play A7 and D7. They can't play, little chords like that because they're thinking about scales. But when I play something like that, I'm not thinking a scale. I'm thinking, here's a chord, here's a few notes from a scale, here's a triad, here's something that I know is going to sound cool over this groove. So it all comes together. You need to work on all of it. And I think chords is one of the things that's missing. And that's something I remember Robben Ford talked about. He listened to a lot to B.B. King when he started out playing, and he has said many times that guitar players need to work more on chords because that's going to help you play more melodically. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I talk so much about triads. You probably heard that. Triads. Which really is the building block for my style of playing. I'm thinking about navigating between the chords and playing some cool rhythms and nice lines between the chords. So yeah. How many strings are on your banjo? Well, I don't have a banjo. But I might get one day. They're pretty cool. Stratocaster or Telecaster? Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a Strat guy. I have several Strats. Actually, here's another Strat that I can show you that I haven't played much lately. It's a road-worn Players. I think it's called Players Strat. One of those Mexican, bit aged looking. It's a fine guitar. I got Porter pickups in it. Sounds great. I use this for tuning down and playing Hendrix stuff. E flat or even D sometimes. It's a cool guitar. Yeah, so I like Strats obviously. But that said, I have to say that there's something about a Telecaster that's so cool. I have this guy too that you might have seen. This is a G&L. A tribute classic blues boy. It's an Indonesian, what do you call these? Thin line type of Telecaster style guitar. I really like that style. So when it comes to choosing between both, it's hard. I really like Teles, and I think I'm going to get a good, maybe a custom shop Tele or something, because I might regret saying this, but I think that the Telecaster might be the best kind of guitar there is. It only has 2 pickups. It doesn't sound like a Strat, but you can make it sound like almost anything you want. The main difference, I think, between Strats and a Telecaster is the neck pickup on a Strat. I really like that. That sound is hard to get the same on a Telecaster. And the other thing is the in-between positions, that quacky. That's a cool sound. And you can't get quite the same on the Telecaster. All right, I think it's working. Good. I moved and the microphone cord got unplugged. So yeah, Telecasters are awesome guitars, and they're so fun to play too, and they got that twangy, distinct tone, and they sound great with distortion and clean. And I like the in-between sound on the Telecaster. It's quite different than a Strat. So yeah, that's really not an answer which one. So the answer is both. But Telecasters are awesome. Another thing, of course, is the whammy bar on the Strat. You can do a lot of cool stuff with that. This kind of sound, hollow sounding. It's hard to get that on a Telecaster. Yeah, licks with Mixolydian mode. Oh, that's a good question. Thanks for asking, Leo. The Mixolydian is another scale that I use a lot, or mode, if you will. If we take E, or let's say E7. You know, and when we play E7, a lot of the times we just play the pentatonic. But the scale, or mode, that is the de facto correct scale, if you will, is the Mixolydian mode. And it has a flat 5. A flat 7. If I play the scale. So the only difference between that and the major scale is the 7th note. On the major scale you have a major 7. On a Mixolydian mode you have a flat 7. So I often use that mode, and then I just mess around with that minor third. So if you don't know the Mixolydian mode, you got to do it. You got to learn it. I often add in, chromatic passing notes too. But it's all coming from that Mixolydian mode. So licks that uses the Mixolydian mode, I don't know. I tend to, when I play licks, I don't usually stay in one mode or one scale. I just kind of go between notes and just try to find something that sounds cool. But let's see, what can we figure out? Can do that kind of thing. You can travel the scale. And you can play the arpeggio as well. I'm playing 1, 3, 5, 7 from that mode. And then if I add the minor third in there, it's also good to practice playing just thirds. And you can play little chords. When you play B minor, the B minor triad, you almost get that Mixolydian sound right away. So yeah, I play a lot of that kind of thing, I think. There's some Mixolydian lick for you right there. Tom Anderson guitars. They're really nice. I haven't played them very much, so I don't know that much about them, but I know they're really good. High quality instruments, similar to Suhr, I think. I would certainly recommend that brand if you're interested. I know they're really well made. I had a question about soloing on a chord progression. If the chord progression has 5 chords, hang on a second, something is, there we go. If the chord progression has 5 chords, in which note should I solo? Not sure exactly what you mean there. I think you mean which key should you solo in is probably what you mean. Like if we have a chord progression, I'm playing an E now. I'm just noodling around on the, in this case, major scale. So all those chords, they're a part of the key. So you got to figure out what key you're playing in. And then you can use that mother scale, which has the key center of the song. It could be minor too. It could be, the key could be E minor instead of E major. You just need to know that. And then you use that scale, the mother scale, as you play a solo, and as the chord come by, you try and highlight some chord tones for the next chord. So if I'm playing E major, and then it goes to A, to B. So I'm trying to just focus on a chord tone in my melodic style of playing that I'm doing. I'm just kind of trying to find some sweet chord tones as the chords come by. But the scale I'm using is still E major in this case. I hope that answered your question, John. Yeah, got any more questions for me? I'm wondering if you guys are interested in more chord lessons and chords that are built off of scales, perhaps. I can talk a little bit about how I practice. It's not the same thing every time. Like I don't practice only one way. But one day or one moment, and when I sit down with the guitar, I might be playing scales and trying to. I always try to work on finding different ways of playing ideas so that I'm not just stuck in one thing. Actually, I can give you an example of that. This is something I actually found out fairly recently, more consciously. I probably already used this approach, but I didn't really think about it until quite recently, which is kind of weird actually, because this is nothing strange. But let's take the E minor blues scale again. So the first thing is I try to play that scale in different ways. You know, skipping between strings too. But this is the move that I want to show you. When you go to the flat 5, you have a couple of, actually, you have a couple of ways you can continue up the scale. You can go out and play B here, the 5th of this scale. But I find that is a bit tricky with the fingering. And if you just use the box, if I'm going to go from B to E, that's a little tricky for me to pick. So there's another way you can go up the scale, and that's by playing only 2 notes on the G string instead of 3. The usual is 3. 1, 2, 3. But you can also play. So now I'm playing that flat 5 on the B string. And that makes it possible to do a slide up to the 5. And often I go to the root note after. And I usually do that when I go up. I go up the scale. But then when I go down, then I use the G string flat 5. You know, you can. That's the one way that I might practice a scale. I figure out the different fingering for it, and oh, that's interesting. What can we do with that? And before you know it, you find yourself coming up with some idea that you wouldn't have done otherwise if you had just stuck to that one single way of playing a scale. So it's important to explore fingerings for scales. Here's another one. So now I'm a box behind, so to speak. That makes it also possible to play things like. Oh, sorry. So yeah, that's an example of little things you can do by just sitting down and paying attention where the notes are on the fretboard and trying it, having some patience. And you should do that with all scales. With the Mixolydian, I often, well, in scales in general, I like to experiment with sixths. It's also a very melodic way of playing. So this is, I'm basically harmonizing the E Mixolydian mode. Using sixths. Okay. And that's almost chords, right? Once you get into more than one note at a time, you basically get the sound of a chord, even though it's technically not the full chord when you have 2 notes, but And then you can switch to a different chord. You can go, let's see, E minor. That's another way you can work on scales. Just play through sixths. Do it for all the modes. Actually, that's good practice. But make sure you know where the intervals are. That's super important, because if you're playing over a seventh type of vamp or chord, you have to not play the major seven, right? Otherwise you get that clash. So you need to know where the major seven and the minor seven is of that scale. So when you play over a minor chord, you need to use a minor third and a minor seven. And when it's a major chord, you need to do the major seven and your major third. Now I'm playing fourths, actually. And minor. Here's the fourth when I play minor. It's just wood jetting. What key should you play in? Well, the key of the song would be the answer. But for guitar players, we often tend to play E and A, maybe D, because we have open strings. It's easier to do that than in A flat. Really hard. Compared to that. So that said, you should practice playing other keys that you are less familiar with, like maybe A flat is a good one. And so on, so that you start seeing all the notes on the fretboard, not just the more common keys. How can I be more motivated to pick up the guitar? Well, that's a good question. Well, I think it has to do with goals that you set for yourself. It's really important to have goals. Maybe it could be writing a song. Maybe it could be playing better lead in your band. Set little goals for yourself. You want to be able to master a few licks, solo, a scale, a chord progression, and then put in an effort to track your progress. So maybe it's a lesson you're working on how to play a certain song. Try and plan out how you're going to attack it. So you're going to learn the scales that you need to know for that song. You need to know the chords. You need to know the strumming. You need to know the whatever rhythmic patterns are in it. So plan to tackle those things individually. So one day you figure out the scales, next day you work on the chords and so on, and then you make it a priority to record yourself doing this, so that you take a week to learn this, or however long it takes, and then you start recording yourself frequently doing it. One day okay, I'm going to work on the chords for this song. You record it and you listen to it and play it for your mom and your friends and whoever, and get feedback, and then you continue working on it. Maybe you choose a different song, and then you come back to the first one and record over it again and listen again and compare to the first one. That's one thing I like to do when it comes to becoming, to noticing your improvement, that you record yourself and then you listen back, and sometimes we feel like, oh yeah, it doesn't sound that great. But if you do this continuously and then compare to your first recordings, you'll find that, yeah, I am getting better. I didn't realize it, but I'm actually getting better. And that's going to motivate you, because when you find that you're getting better at what you're trying to do, it's going to motivate you to work harder, I think, right? So motivation comes from setting goals, working on a plan to reach those goals, and once you have reached those goals, you set new ones, and you keep working that way. And it certainly helps to play with a band as well, and play with other people, take lessons and so on. It's always good to take lessons from an experienced, good teacher. They can give you some guidelines and ideas on what you should focus on. That can be difficult sometimes on your own, but I think that is how I think about motivating myself. I want to get better, and I need to work on something that I haven't mastered yet. Like for me, there's no point in spending 3 hours working on the pentatonic scale, because I already know it. I don't really need to practice that. Instead, I might use the pentatonic scale to try and come up with ideas. I might think, okay, what kind of fingerings have I not tried yet with this good old pentatonic scale? I might work on that. So anything that I think is doable, but I haven't quite figured it out yet, that motivates me to work harder. But it's also a personal thing. We're not all designed the same way when it comes to learning. So you have to figure out what drives you and what motivates you. So I hope that helps. Yeah. And of course, we all play different style of music too, I think. I mean, I don't think everybody is stuck in one style. So it's good to reach out and look for other styles of music that you haven't tried. Like for me, finger picking is a hurdle. I can finger pick some, but I'm not a master at it. So I need to work on that kind of thing, and Travis picking, and that's a cool thing to. Finger picking style of playing is for me a challenge, and I hope to find more time to work on it, because that's motivating. When I can play more finger style, I feel better about myself. I can weave that into my regular style of playing eventually too. So the more things you absorb and the more things you learn from different styles, from different techniques, different sounds and approaches to creating sounds, the more of that you do, the more maybe I shouldn't say better musician will be, although you probably will be, but you have more to draw from. You have more inspiration. You can find more inspiration in all these different things that you have learned, instead of just being laser focused on one thing only your whole career, right? Do I practice with a looper? No, actually I don't practice with a looper, but I do like loopers for sure. Sometimes I do gigs with a looper and then I basically practice live. But instead I often actually use a free drum machine. I'll type it in the chat box here. Drumbit.app, I think is the website for it. It's just a simple little online drum machine, but I use that sometimes, just bring it up and use one of the defaults demos that are in there, and then I practice with a drum machine instead of a metronome. Is kind of boring, you know, the click. Although it has its benefits sometimes as well, that you only have a click. But sometimes when you want to just jam along with something and you don't want to take the time to record a backing track, or sometimes you might not want the backing track because you don't want the chords, you might be focusing on technique or something, then you can bring up a drum machine like that and work with. But a looper is great, of course, because you can practice creating a chord progression on the fly. So I just don't have one set up all the time. That's basically why I don't do it. And also I'm always in front of my computer, so I have the recording software, so I can really quickly lay down a chord progression if I like in my software, and then I jam to that. But if you don't have the kind of setup that I do, and you just want to jam along to something and you don't have a backing track available either, maybe, yeah, then a looper is a great thing. Oh, there's one more thing that I need to say about practicing and improving. There is one key answer, I would say, that is like the optimal answer. There's a one-word answer, and the word is transcribing. And what I mean by that, and this is something I have done a lot myself, it doesn't mean that you have to write it down in notation or anything like that, but it means that you learn something by listening to it and copying it. And then you learn it well enough that you can apply it to your own playing. And that can mean a lick, it can mean some kind of scale run, it can mean chords and inversions of chords and so on, that you listen to some recording or some guy playing on live on YouTube, whatever, and then you try copying it. And it's a really good thing because you practice your ear as well. So I did a lot of that when I started out. When I would hear a chord like maybe it was something like someone was picking a chord. Then I would try and find, okay, where is that? No, that's not right. You know, painstakingly go one note at a time. No, that's not right. Oh, there it is. What's the next note? No. Oh, there it is. So, you know, so eventually you find those notes and then, that's what he's doing. It's like, Eureka, I found it. It's a revelation. So that is really important to do on a regular basis. You know, licks like a lot of blues players do, right? That kind of stuff we all stole from somewhere. We got that from Chuck Berry and Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan, whoever it was that we heard that from, and then we learned it, and then we made it part of our own playing. and now we all use it all the time. So it is really, really powerful to be able to figure these things out by listening, learn, and then of course understanding it. This is a minor triad. That's what it looks like on the fretboard. Okay, now I'm going to try and use it. You know, okay, now I figure out I can use that grip that I learned one note at a time to play chords, or I can use it as a starting point for a little solo lead thing, like I did there. Yeah, so transcribing is the ultimate thing. The more you do it, the better. And you should transcribe different styles of players, different instruments. I have transcribed horn players, piano players, bass players, even drummers. You know, figuring out a certain kind of groove and where the accents are, and that is also really useful. But the point with it is to learn it so that you can get something out of it and put it into your own playing, not just figure out a copy of something and then never use it again and forget about it. That's a waste of time. You need to try and make use of it somehow in your own playing. It doesn't have to be the whole idea, right? It could just be like if you copy something that's 6 notes, maybe only use 3 or 4 out of that idea when you use it, but you still know the whole thing, and you can, you know, massage it and change it around and make it your own thing. But it all comes from transcribing, listening, copying, learning, and then assimilating, absorbing it and making it part of your own playing in some way. Okay? Any more questions? One thing I haven't done a lot about in my videos is picking and technique. And I don't know if people are interested in that. I think technique is a bit of an individual thing. Some people alternate pick all the time. And some people do a lot of legato and hammer-ons and slides and pull-offs and stuff like that. I tend to use a lot of pull-offs and hammer-ons. Because it works for me. I mean, some people like to pick everything. But it's good to have some alternate picking skills as well. And then you have the economy, which I'm really bad at, when you sweep, when you go from one string to the next. So I'm alternate pick 3 notes. My pick is going down. I continue down to the next string. So it becomes a sweep, like. And I don't use it that much. I use it a little bit. It takes time to get the synchronization fixed up, and some people are really good at it. Like, have you heard Rick Graham, the British guy? He's phenomenal. He can play so fast and controlled using that kind of technique. And I'm not at that level, that's for sure, when it comes to this style of playing. I often make it into a longer sweep. Something like that. I play 3 notes and then but that's the idea, that you just sweep from one string to the next. And you have to practice it to different tempos, use a metronome. Faster and faster. But I am not good at it. I don't feel confident using that technique very much. But you know, It's something you got to try and spend some time with and see if it works for you. You don't have to know all the techniques either in order to play well. I mean, you can. I think the best thing is to follow your heart and follow your instinct. Like, I like to play this way. It seems to work better for me. That's fine. There's no need to be a master at all different techniques. It's also really difficult, of course. But yeah, it also depends on the style of music. Certain styles of music, you might need more alternate picking skills. If you play blues, you can. That's a good thing about blues. You can do almost whatever you want, technique-wise, as long as it sounds cool and you bend notes and play with attitude. Okay. Is it important to remember every name of notes on each fret and each string? Yeah, it is important. It's really a good thing to learn that. It takes some time, but so that you feel confident anywhere on the neck. Okay, I know where this note, I know G sharp is here. And I know it's here now. So when you work on these octave patterns that I showed in that last lesson this week, you will be able to find these notes after a while without so much thinking. And once you find that note that you're after, then you can also play the rest of the scale from there or a chord from there. Yeah, I don't know if that was a good answer to your question about economy picking, but that's really all there is. Just approach the switching with a stroke, the same direction. The same if you're going up. If you're going from a thin string to thicker string, you make the movement when the pick is going this way, from one string to the next, and vice versa. Do I ever get overwhelmed with so much to learn? Yes, I do. Overwhelmed is maybe not the right word. It's more like I'm overwhelmed sometimes with what I want to teach, because there's so many things I'd like to teach, but it seems impossible to find the time to do it all. But I get a little bit sad sometimes that I know that this area is weak for me. I really would like to sit down and spend a lot of time learning this better, and I know that I don't really have enough time for it right now. And then those kind of things bother me, because I know what I need to work more on. So that is, we can call it overwhelming if you like, but it's more like it's a nuisance. Oh, I wish I was better at this thing. Of course, there's only one way to fix it, is to practice more. But again, you have to also focus on what motivates you and what you like to do. Like, there's no point in trying to learn flamenco style guitar if you're going to be playing blues mostly, and vice versa, right? You just have to narrow in on that stuff that you really like, and then you spend time doing that, and that's good. You don't have to learn everything. Nobody knows everything. And of course, checking YouTube and other people, what they're doing, and seeing what cool things you can pick up here and there. Transcribing, that is also very, very useful and helps motivate you to practice more. How do you connect pentatonic patterns? Well, that's a good question. Of course, you would want to learn all the 5 boxes of the pentatonic scale. Let's see, E minor. Okay, I'm playing open position here. You see what I did there? I made a sliding motion with my hand from one pattern or box to the other. That's how you move between them. And you can move on any note you like, any string you like. Just look for the next note. Try to look ahead. I know now that I have a note up here. That note's also here. So when I'm playing this, I now can choose, do I want to stay here or do I want to move my hand up? You know, that makes it easier to play something like that. Instead of trying on one string, that's too hard. And you can slide with whichever finger you like. You should try and slide with different ones. Index finger slide. That was all index finger slide. I can also go slide with the ring finger now. And now other direction. Okay, that's actually a fun way to practice a scale too, instead of just playing the box. I hate that. It's just really unmusical. But when you start sliding between and play some, you know, different rhythms, or just try to be melodic. Sliding back and forth and trying to come up with a cool melody or line. That's all there is to it. You just have to practice that, sliding between them. And look ahead. When I'm playing this, I know I can go up and play. But I can also go back in one position, or I can go This is a nice little lick that came about because I was sliding the hand. I couldn't play that otherwise. It doesn't sound the same. I mean, it involved 2 slides with my hand. And so on. You can play patterns too. Like that. Try and make up all sorts of patterns that you can think of and see where you need to put the fingers to make it as easy as possible. You always want to find the easiest movement possible. And that's also something that's not written in stone. Some people might like to, like B.B. King, he bent with his index finger a lot. For me, I wouldn't do that. I would use a different finger. So you have to explore the fretboard and your technique on your own, and not just do what other people tell you to do when it comes to these things. You have to sort of explore it and see what works best for you. And eventually it'll become natural. The more you practice these things, the more automatic things can happen. You'll find your thing, I promise. Am I playing patterns or thinking individual notes? That is a good question. Now, I have to think about that. Let me get a little bit more gain on my tone here. Where are we? That's my neck pickup. Here's a bridge pickup. Yeah, so patterns. Yeah, I do use patterns without even thinking about it. I know that. So I guess I do both. I'm thinking about the line itself. I want it to sound cool. If I want to do some sort of scale movement like that, I'm thinking about the whole big picture. But I'm also thinking about the shape. I don't have time to think each note individually. I need to rely on the shape. So I mean, that's those shapes I see as, but I also think, okay, where should I end? I'm going to end in the minor third. I'm kind of looking ahead for that. But on the way there, I look at the shape or shapes of the scale. So yeah. But on the other hand, the shape is more like a roadmap. It's not. It's a journey in a way. It's not the end destination. The end destination is like the end of the lick. You know, play something like that. I'm just thinking, oh, this would be a good note to hang on. That note's going to be sounding great over that chord, and that note's going to be sounding great over that chord. And the shape of the scale is just something that's in the back of my mind that I don't even think about it. I just see where the notes are due to the shape, and then I try to make something happen with the note. I think that explains it exactly how I think about it. I just haven't analyzed it that way before, but yeah, it is shape based, and once you know the shapes, you don't think about them. It's like, I guess it's like the alphabet. You use it all the time in words, but you don't think A, B, C, D, E, F, G when you play, right? It's just, when you speak, I mean, it just comes out. So it's the same thing with shapes and patterns, both for chords and for scales. Is keeping in key important? Yes, keeping in key is important for sure. But you can still play any of the 12 notes. Like any note is okay to play, but you just don't want to focus on the wrong ones. You know, for example, let's look at what you said there. If the song is in A minor, to play A Dorian on the A minor chord, F sharp. In this case, when you talk about Dorian and A minor, you can use either Dorian or Aeolian over an A minor chord. It's only when you have either in the chord you have an F, you can have a kind of chord. Then you have an F in there, then you can't use Dorian anymore because it's going to clash. The two, minor 6 versus a major 6. But if a chord just stays on a static, in a static way, A minor like this, you can use either the Aeolian, I'll try to show that F note. That's fine, but you can also use Dorian if you like. It's just a different sound, but it will also fit. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Even A minor 7, the same thing. Because both of those modes, Aeolian and Dorian, they both have a minor 7th. And they have a minor 3rd. They have the same 5th. It's that 6th that's different. Versus. And then you can use, when I said that you can use any of the 12 notes, you can use passing notes. You know, any note is fine. Just come into a chord note from below or above. You know, if I ended on one of those notes, it would sound terrible. But if I play it that way, where their pickup notes, and usually you end on that target note on a downbeat. Then, you know, it sounds cool. Yeah. Well, I think so anyway, sometimes. How do you get your wrist comfortable playing in that position? That's a good question. I guess it comes from doing it for such a long time. I have played for a lot of years, and I just gradually learned to play a certain way. You know, my style evolved into a certain way of playing. I think you mean maybe like this. Yeah, but that's just a preference. If you like to play like this, there's nothing wrong with that. I like to hold it like this because I actually prefer to use a strap. And when I put the guitar like this, it's closer to what it would feel like if I had a strap on me. This is more familiar. If I practice this way and then I put the strap on, I mean, I can probably practice this way and feel okay with it after a while, but then I put my strap on and then the guitar is over here. I'm like, oh, you know, it's not. I've always believed in the principle of what is it called again? Well, what I'm trying to say is you prepare for something by practicing in a similar way. Like if you're going to be if you're going to run a marathon, you have to practice getting used to that kind of experience so that you run longer and longer. You wouldn't do 200-meter sprints, that's all you do, and then you try to run a marathon. It wouldn't be a smart way to prepare. So I like to practice and do things that is going to be as similar as possible to a performance, for example. If I'm going to be playing jazz, I would prepare by working on the jazz vocabulary instead of playing punk rock, you know, the week before my gig. So you just get good at what you do. If you do it long enough, you find a way to become decent at it, and you find your own style and what works for you. You kind of evolve into a certain way as musicians, I think, both when it comes to theory and notes and note choices, but also technique and style and our feel that we put in. It's just kind of it will come out a certain way. No matter what you do, you're gonna always sound like you in the end, and that's a good thing. How do you know how long the chord plays in a bar and keeping track? Well, you should count. In the beginning, if you're not certain about how long you stay on a chord, you should practice counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 2, 3. You know, that way you can be certain that you know what's going on. If you practice doing that, you can actually you should just, if you're not good at this, you should just sit down with the song like that and play along with the track and count out like that. And you can, if you have the chord progression written down, you can see, okay, there's so many bars of that chord. And then when you jam along, you count that out loud for yourself. And the more you do that, the more it's going to become natural to you. So after a while, you start feeling, okay, I feel that, okay, right there we switch chord. You don't even count in your head. It just becomes a part of your knowledge of music, that you hear the original song, okay, of course, if it's a blues, it tends to be 4 bars, but you listen to the song long enough, you start to hear where, okay, I know they go to a different chord there. And then when you play, along with it, after you start with counting and then you stop counting, and when you don't need it, then you'll eventually get to the point where, yeah, I don't need to do any counting anymore. I've been doing this, practicing this to the track, and I can feel where the chords change, and I just go with it. It just becomes natural after some time. How did you overcome the horrible stretch on the G-shape G chord? Well, I think you can stretch pretty far with your fingers. You just have to put your thumb not up here. You have to slide it down like this. See, I have all these fingers available, right? and then I can reach. So my hand is just going like that. Thumb is down deep, then I can reach really far. And I don't have huge fingers either. I can go from A to E on the low E string, but not very well. I would never do that. But maybe from B. Yeah. Oh, hej Benny. En kille från Sverige, vad trevligt. Oh, for everybody else I said a guy from Sweden, how nice. Because I am from Sweden. I'm not sure if you all knew that, but that's my home country, but I live in Canada. Too much distortion. How to become so handsome like you? Oh, yeah, right. I don't think you're serious. J Mick, that's half what? Half what? I don't know, what are you guys mostly interested in? Chords or solos, licks, music theory, technique, styles of music? It's also fun to experiment with everything you can with a guitar. Like sometimes I play close to the bridge, and other times try somewhere else and see what it sounds like. Structure, okay, G pattern. I don't know what you mean. Yeah, patterns. You should learn all the patterns you can. Structure arranging. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I try to always think melodically. I don't know, I just always been always felt drawn to playing melodic stuff. And that's usually, chord tones are usually a key for that. So they help you learn chords too. How to be fast, it's just a matter of practicing. The more time you spend and on working on little drills, you can work on, like for example, hammer-ons. Back and forth like that. Different fingers. So you develop a certain amount of strength, and then you can start doing faster stuff. So it's just practice. Licks teknikövningar. I gotta go soon. It's late here, but when it comes to playing licks, like Stevie Ray Vaughan style stuff, you just have to listen to him a lot and work on your bends and that. He does a lot of that stuff, right? And work on playing that box. He does a lot of that kind of thing, right? Yeah, it's just repetition. Listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan licks, copy as many as you can muster. Keep doing it. It's hard to play Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff really authentically because he had such a big tone, and he had a certain way of doing a lot of bends that were so, emotional and soulful, and it's hard to always find the right feeling to be playing his style. It's really hard. That's why he was so unique. He had such a cool approach. But as anything, it's just learn the style and practice the style a lot. But of course, I mean, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, but if I were to do a specific lesson, I would plan it out. And okay, I'm going to try and teach these type of specifics in order to get into a certain style. But I don't really have that prepared right now. I'm just sitting here talking. But I could do that kind of lesson sometime. Exactly what should be worked on to achieve your goal of playing a certain style. But that will be another time. All right, I gotta go soon. A couple more questions. How to compose a song that sounds like Phrygian? Oh, that means you have to learn how to harmonize that mode. You can harmonize any mode the same way as you harmonize the major scale. That's harmonizing the C major scale with chords. You can do the same thing with modes. It's more complicated. Going to be chords that you might not be used to be playing, but that's how you would find out what chords you can use in a progression for that certain mode. Songwriting, that's a big topic. That would be for a different time. But again, the default answer is transcribe, means listen and steal. Copy, steal, borrow, whatever word you want to use. Do that a lot to songs as well. Write down chord progressions, and the more you do that, analyzing chord progressions, you'll start to get a better feel for that. The Beatles is a really good band to start with. They had some really interesting chord progressions, I think. a lot of variation. They were, like nowadays you hear this chord progression is like everywhere. Right? 4 chords and the same, they could be different orders sometimes, but always the same 4 chords, right? The Beatles didn't do that. They had a lot more variation. You can learn a lot more, I think, by listening to bands like the Beatles. Did I ever see 17-year-old girl, Tina S? No. I don't know who that is. Do I count in my head often when I'm playing? No, not too often. But I might, if it's something that's I find tricky rhythmically. If I'm playing a song that I'm not that familiar with, maybe. There could be sections where I know I should count to make sure I play in the right spot. But generally I don't have to. Just because I've been playing for such a long time. When I play a concert, do I practice before starting? Yeah, I have to warm up. I go through and play some bends and some scale runs. And some strumming. Kind of, loosen up like that. I have to do that for sure, like half an hour before. All right, guys, I'm getting a kind of a hoarse throat. I have to go. It was nice chatting with you all. Thanks for asking questions, and we can do this again sometime. It's always nice to connect with people that follow me and see what you guys are interested in. So I appreciate you stopping by. I will see you another time. So take care and bye for now.